What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Today we're going to be talking about a hard reset for your MMR and possible changes to Reaper, Bastion, and Torbjorn. Thanks for today's sponsor, GameLeap, where you can get tips and guides straight from the pros. Sign up using the link below and get 25% off. If this is the first time you're watching a Respawn video, here's how it works. I get tons of questions all the time. Not all of them are big enough to be answered in a full video, so I put a bunch of the questions together, and then we get the Respawn series. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, leave them down below, and maybe you'll get picked for the next video. First up, what are your thoughts on Reaper in the current meta? Does he need a buff? In the current meta, he's okay. I think he might be a little bit better than he was in Dive, but he's still not really like the best character you could use. And as far as needing a buff, I think he does need a little bit of a boost. For the most part, he's okay, but I like what they changed recently with the Wraith form changes. He can now cancel it, it's a little bit faster, but they need to do something with his teleport. It's one of, if not the worst ability in the entire game. It's an out-of-combat ability that takes 2 full seconds where you're locked in, you can't do anything. It's super loud and it's super bright, there's tons of particle effects. It's unbelievably easy to take out a Reaper who's teleporting if you happen to see it. On top of that, it's still incredibly buggy with the teleport location marker when you're trying to get up onto a ledge or into a window or something like that. It's just really broken. It's been like that ever since the game came out. They need to fix it. As far as his ultimate, it's really underwhelming. Sure, you can get a couple triple kills or something like that if you catch a bunch of people completely unsuspecting, but if even one enemy is actually paying attention, they can take you out while standing inside your ultimate, because they're going to deal more damage than the Reaper will. So to answer your question, yeah, I think he needs a little something, but not too much. Next question, kinda obvious answer, but I wanted to put it in here just so I could talk a little more about it. It says, what do you think the next event will be? It's going to be the Summer Games, and then after that we're going to have Halloween, then after that we're going to have Christmas, and then we're going to have the Lunar New Year, and then the Archives, and then the Anniversary, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And I was thinking earlier this year that Blizzard might actually start cycling out some of these, and maybe having some new or interesting things coming up, and it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. It does look like Blizzard is just going to basically recycle old events over and over again. The only new one is going to be the Archive event, which is kind of like a lore-related thing. So first we had the Uprising, then we had Retribution. No idea what we're going to have next year, but yeah, that's basically it. We're basically going to have the same events over and over every year. Next question, you might have said this in the past, but Bastion is quite powerful. What kind of change do you think he needs? Here's the thing. Bastion is one of those characters that functions very differently in the lower bracket than he does in the upper bracket. So lower is going to be bronze, silver, gold, and plat. And in that case, yes, he can be fairly strong because the way the character is designed, and some of the other characters in the game work like this as well, is they're really good at punishing bad play. So people who are out of position, people who are not working together, or people who have lower mechanical skill, it's easy for a character like Bastion to punish that. However, in the upper bracket, Bastion is garbage tier. He is one of the least played characters in the upper bracket. He gets virtually no playtime whatsoever in professional play. And he did have a little bit of kind of a burst here when people were doing the pirate ship stuff in Junkertown. But for the most part, he's just not used because in the upper bracket, people have the mechanical skill, the coordination, the game sense in order to basically deal with that Bastion, and he's just not a factor at all. So one of the issues that Blizzard has is when they're dealing with a character like Bastion, or Torbjorn for that matter, because he's in a very similar situation, is he's too strong in the lower brackets and he's absolute garbage tier in the upper brackets. So what do? If they buff him to make him good enough to be in the upper brackets, then he's just going to be unbelievably powerful in the lower. But if they nerf him for the lower brackets, then he's going to become even more useless in the upper. So there's changes that need to be made, but it's not just a straight up buff or nerf to the character. They need to make more mechanical changes. They need to change the actual skill floor and the ceiling of the character, as opposed to just, we're going to reduce the damage, we're going to increase the armor, that sort of stuff. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to get rid of his self-heal and to just give him a different ability that requires some level of skill to use, so that way the skill floor and the skill ceiling of the character does get raised. Do you think there should be a button that makes you reset your MMR, or should Blizzard do a reset by themselves every year or something? That would help out people who joined rank at low levels and people stuck in elo hell. So should a player be able to reset their own MMR? Absolutely not. However, you kinda can if you buy a new account, but I advise you against doing that. And there's a bunch of reasons why. Most notably is I don't think you should give Blizzard more money because their matchmaking system is bad. You don't reward bad behavior, right? Like, when someone is doing something wrong or when there's a bad design, you don't, reward them. And I think by buying another account, you're actually rewarding them for a bad matchmaking system, and I just don't think you should be doing that. Now, Blizzard should be resetting the MMR every single season. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever that they keep the old matchmaking. So whenever you do your placements, in case you didn't know, your wins and losses in the placements mean almost nothing. Where you get placed for the next season is determined almost entirely by where you were last season. So wherever you ended up is pretty much where you're going to start in the next season. Now, it will fluctuate up or down a little bit depending on your personal performance during those placement matches, but whether you win or lose really doesn't matter. And I just don't see the point of having seasons if you're not going to reset the MMR. Pretty much everything that I've ever seen with competitive gaming, whenever they have a new season, they reset everyone's MMR. And it just doesn't make any sense to carry over the old one, because if you're carrying over the old MMR, the old ranking, then why are you having a new season? I mean, I understand you could have like rewards and stuff, but I mean, you can do that like without, I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense. But should a player be able to? No, that would be bad. Should Blizzard do it? Yes, they should. Do you have any ideas for the Torbjorn change? I've talked about this at great length in the past, and it's similar to the situation with the Bastion, where you have a very big difference between the usability, viability of a character in the lower brackets versus the upper brackets. And if you just simply change the numbers, increasing damage and health, then it's going to not really fix the situation. There needs to be other stuff that's done. Now, we do know that Torbjorn is getting some kind of a rework coming up after Symmetra, but what exactly they're going to do, they haven't kind of told us yet. However, I do think that a lot more emphasis needs to be placed on Torbjorn the character as opposed to the turret. I think the turret itself needs to be a little bit more disposable. We're not talking like Symmetra level disposable with the mini sentries, but a little more disposable than it is now, so you don't have to bother with repairing it and upgrading it and that sort of thing. Here's the thing, I made an entire video talking about this. It's got charts and all sorts of data and all kinds of awesome stuff, so you can go and check that out. There's a link down below for that. Thanks again for today's sponsor, GameLeap. Now, there's nothing you can do about bad teammates, so instead, focus on improving your own gameplay to its max, and then just carry your team to that win. With this, GameLeap can help. It's got tons of carefully crafted guides, top 500 replay analysis, and tips and tricks straight from the pros. You get the training you need to win more. Right now, you can get 25% off with my link down below, and the best part is, if you don't like it, you can get a full refund. You have nothing to lose and only more games to win. Get a premium membership on GameLeap and start winning today.